first thing we're going to recap is the chain rule. So what the chain rule says is, if y equals to f of u and u equals g of x, and these things are differentiable functions, of u and x, then d dx of f of g of x will equal to f prime of g of x times g prime of x. Okay, so what this means is that if you have dy dx, okay, the differentiation of that will equal to dy over du. So differentiation of y respect to differentiation of u, so you're just using u as almost like a substitution, and then du times du over d. Now we're going to do an example of that with an easy problem. So if we have y equals to 3x minus 5 to the 10th power, and you want to find y prime. So what you can do is let u, it's going to equal to 3x minus 5, and then y is equal to u to the 10th power. And then now you can say that dy du is 10u to the 9th. So that's this part of it. You know that that's 10u to the 9th. And then you're going to also then differentiate u, which is 3. Okay, so like that. That's this part, so it's du dx really. And then you're just going to multiply the two together. And then you're going to get 30 u to the 9th power, or 30 times 3x minus 5 to the 9th power. And what you're doing there is you're just substituting the u back in, and you're going to get 30 times 3x minus 5 to the 9th power. Next important thing that you have to learn is implicit differentiation. And the important thing to remember about this is that you have to differentiate each term of the equation with respect to x. Differentiate each term with respect to x. So we're going to do another very, very quick example. So let's say, here's our problem. X squared plus y squared is 36, and you're asked to find y prime. So you're going to get 2x, you're differentiating with respect to x, plus 2y, and here's the thing you have to do, dy dx, because it's with respect to x, not to y, and that will equal 0. And then you're just going to solve this out, and you're going to get 2x plus 2y, y prime 0, take out the 2, and you're going to get y times y prime is negative x, y prime is negative x over y. And that is your y prime.
pumped into the spherical balloon at a rate of 4.5 feet cubed per minute. So this means that dV dt, because it's the volume of the air being pumped into the balloon, equals 4.5 feet cubed per minute. Also, it says that the change of, they want us to find the rate of change of the radius when the radius is 2 feet. So we need to find the dr dt when r equals 2. So to do this, first you need the equation of relating volume to radius. So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So if we differentiate that, it makes dv dt equals 4/3 pi times r squared times dr dt, using the chain rule there. So we know that dv dt equals 4.5 feet cubed per minute, and so we can replace dv dt with 4.5. And we also want to know what dr dt is when r equals 2. So replace r with 2. So if you want to find dr dt, solve for dr dt by dividing, and you get dr dt equals 0.09 feet per minute.
So, the problem is, how fast is the ladder moving down the wall at 12 feet away and 15 feet away? We know that the ladder is 20 feet, so we also know that it's going across in the x direction at 2 feet per second. So this means that dx dt equals 2. So we want to know what dy dt equals because we want to know how fast it's moving down the wall, which is in the y direction. So if dx dt equals 2 feet per second, since it's going across in the x direction, and we know that x equals 12 or x equals 15 because we want to know it at those 2 points, we can figure out what dy dt equals at x equals 12 and x equals 15. So, to start the problem, we use the fact that x squared plus y squared equals 20 squared, using the Pythagorean theorem. So when we differentiate that, we get 2x times dx dt plus 2y times dy dt equals 0. So if we simplify that, because we know that dx dt equals 2, so we can replace dx dt with 2 and get 4x plus 2y times dy dt equals 0. So now we have to figure it out what happens when x equals 12 and x equals 15. So when x equals 12, since we know that x squared plus y squared equals 20 squared from the beginning of our problem over there, we can replace x with 12 and say 12 squared plus y squared equals 20 squared and get y equals 16. So now that we know that y equals 16, we can plug it back into the problem and replace x with 12, y with 16, and now since we know everything except dy dt, we can figure out dy dt, which equals -3/2 when x equals 12. So now we need to figure out what happens when x equals 15. So using the same method as before, we take x squared plus y squared equals 20 squared, replace x with 15, so 15 squared plus y squared equals 20 squared, and we get y equals 5 square root of 7. So now we replace the derivative with y equals 5 square root of 7 and x equals 15. And we get dy, if you solve for dy dt using a calculator, you can see that dy dt equals negative 6 square root of 7 over 7 when x equals 15. So now we solved the problem, and we know that what dy dt equals at different x values. Now, if you notice, both the answers dy dt and dx dt are negative. The reason that not dx dt, just dy dt is negative. And the reason for that is because when x is increasing, because the length is increasing, the height automatically decreases, as you can see in our video. And if you can picture the ladder moving down the wall, you can see that the height decreases as the length increases. So that is why they're both negative.